Portimao. 2 balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. This is one back. Walkable. Chris Taylor.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Dodger Heads, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by Matt Moreno. And postseason schedule released by Major League Baseball. Now, we're not, counting our chickens before they hatch, so to speak, but the Dodgers have a large lead in the division, a sizable lead in the National League for the number 1 seed as well. The NLDS beginning October 11th is kind of an important date to note if you were a Dodgers fan. But Matt, what's kind of the headlines when this came out? It seemed like there was a bit of noise around some changes that Major League Baseball has made. So what was the biggest takeaway for you?
Yeah, so obviously because of the lockout sort of delaying the start of the regular season, and one domino effect from that was tacking on extra days at the end of the regular season. And so because of that, now the postseason schedule with the NLCS and even the DS, there aren't off days as you get later into the series, which is different from the past. Typically, whenever the series sort of shifts from one city to another, they give the teams a travel day to sort of do that and reset. Now, as you get into, I could pull it up, is especially, for the NLDS, games 4 and 5 would be played. Game 4 would be October 15th, of course, if necessary, and then game 5 would be October 16th. Then if you get into the NLCS, games 5, 6, and 7 are played 3 days in a row, which is sort of reminiscent to the bubble, right? Which, since travel was eliminated, MLB said, hey, we're going to play all these games back to back to back, no off days. And I think especially when the Dodgers got down 3-1 against the Braves, because they were so deep, and it looks to be similar this year, that worked in their favor because they could stay away from X reliever but still have Y relief pitcher who is very good.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about like the Dodgers versus Braves is a matchup we've seen, it feels like, every single year. I mean, imagine having to travel from Los Angeles to Atlanta and then back to Los Angeles and play baseball games 3 consecutive days would be pretty crazy. From your perspective, you kind of hinted at this. You look at the current Dodger construction, obviously Walker Buehler is out. Does this type of setup give an advantage to the Dodgers? Does this hurt the Dodgers? How do you interpret this specifically as a Dodger fan?
I think it is still a benefit for them, similar to how, like I just referenced in 2020, because even without Walker Buehler, I know I've expressed some concerns about, hey, like if things sort of go wrong, the Dodgers could be in some trouble. This is now one step towards that. There are still options and depth within the pitching staff, and that's without, I guess that's including, for me, assuming that Clayton Kershaw does come back as well. I think Andrew Heaney is somebody who may end up in the bullpen, and that adds more length to that. Obviously, Brusdar Graterol is going to be back within a matter of maybe a week or so. Blake Treinen in September at some point. So, assuming the Dodgers can get to the end of the season into the playoffs healthy, I think if they run into a scenario where they're having to play late in the NLCS, potentially at games 5, 6, and 7, 3 days in a row, I think it could work to their favor. Obviously, it'll be interesting to see who they sort of end up matching up with if they get there, because if it's somebody, I know you mentioned the Braves, if it's the Mets, and that's also another, really long flight. But hey, maybe the Padres will. Well, I guess I'd have to look at how the standings end up to see if that would be a possible NLCS matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the Dodgers, even starting pitching aside, the bullpen, which I think is one of the strengths of this team. The 8th best relief pitcher that the Dodgers have is going to be light years better than anybody else's 8th best reliever. I mean, we're talking about legitimately Brusdar Graterol might be the worst relief pitcher in the Dodgers postseason bullpen. Like when you look at the way that guys like Evan Phillips, Caleb Ferguson are pitching, if you can get a guy like Treinen back, you just go down the list. David Price has been very good. So you just go down the list of how these guys have been performing. I think the depth of the bullpen is going to be a big deal because some of those guys can go back-to-back days, but when you need to mix in an Alex Vestia, you're going to feel a lot better about that than the average team. And even on the starting pitching side, you're optimistic about Clayton Kershaw. I'm undecided about whether I'm optimistic about Clayton Kershaw. But even as it stands with Dustin May due back, between Urias and Gonsolin and Heaney and Anderson and May, there's 5 guys right there. Ryan Pepiot can make some regular season starts to fill you out. If Kershaw comes back, then all of a sudden, I've got 6 starters for 4 postseason spots, and I feel pretty good about that. Even if you need to go to a 5-man rotation, because if you're playing 5, 6, and 7, 3 consecutive days. As you said, if maybe you got a short start and the bullpen was taxed, can you get 4 innings out of Andrew Heaney? Can Clayton Kershaw give you 4 or 5 innings, even coming back? And so I'm with you. I think this benefits the Dodgers because depth has always been a strength and a calling card of theirs. I don't think it's necessarily a coincidence that when depth was tested the most in that bubble and playing all those days back to back to back, the Dodgers end up going and winning the World Series. And so we'll see. But I definitely agree with you that the biggest takeaway is those travel days. Because East Coast to West Coast, 3 days in a row, 3 games in a row could be dicey, but we'll see. Let us know in the comments below. I mean, I'm curious if people agree with us that the Dodgers' depth is a strength. I know there have been people that have been critical of the depth of the starting rotation, the depth of the bullpen, but as the season has progressed, as guys have gotten healthier or on the path back to being healthy, I'm curious if people's opinions have changed. That's Matt Moreno. My name is Jeff Spiegel. As always, we appreciate you joining us here at Dodger Heads. Make sure you subscribe, ring the notification bell here. Check us out on social media, Dodger Blue 1958. And of course, DodgerBlue.com, where you get all the latest news and updates. We appreciate you. See you next time.